I think there are a lot of people who think that we are already at human level AI, or that we are very close to that, and that there is some kind of compulsory pressure on everybody to engage with AI technology, especially companies in the private sector, and also in academia. And I think that is exceptionally dangerous. I'll give you one example of harm that could come from this current misconception. I hear lots of people saying that generative AI applications would be able to change education, specifically in Africa, forever, for the good. My first reaction is, yes, it will change it, but not necessarily for the good. We all know that it is not necessarily the case. Firstly, people who live in rural areas in Africa will not necessarily have access to these kinds of apps, no matter what these apps supposedly can offer them. But secondly, we know about all the problems around the quality of the responses generated by these apps. And if specifically in Africa, where children might not have access to teachers who can guide their engagement with these kinds of apps, that is really, really, really dangerous. The whole debate between AI ethics on the one hand, and that is how the debate is conceived or set up, and international human rights law on the other hand. And it depends a lot on the context and the platform, but in some cases, it's just, well, AI ethics can never, it can't do for governance what human rights law can do. It is soft law. If we think in terms of the UN advisory body that I'm a member of, we make it very clear as our fifth principle in our interim report that came out in December that international law is the bottom line for any kind of governance of AI. But what is forgotten or overlooked, AI ethics is not, at least as far as I'm concerned, simply an applied ethics. And it is not about top-down sets of principles and values that hang somehow in the air, that nobody cares to actualize or to explain or to bring into the context and the world of the tech community, because we absolutely don't need that kind of AI ethics. For me, AI ethics is the enabler of responsible AI and the first kind of flag for human rights digressions. It is not or threat to human rights. It is absolutely a tool, and in the UNESCO recommendation, we also defined AI ethics as a dynamic system. It is about reasoning. It's almost a meta ethics. It is about sitting and reflecting about where is it that our norms and values come from. For me, the most important thing is that the voices from academia should make clear and illustrate how important transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary research is to inform governance. So how I see our role is to help unpack the maybe racial discrimination in prompts that are not in answers that are generated by generative AI, to teach our students critical AI skills, to explain why it is needed and what those things should be, and from the tech side, to have to show how important it is to interact with the humanities, for instance, and law, in order to be able to unpack these kinds of issues and to understand why it is necessary for us to have these conversations. It is really, I think, unfair on the one hand, and it's also irresponsible to expect of the tech community to be able to answer questions around structural bias, around how the AI business model in fact, supports current geopolitical power play globally. For those kinds of conversations, we need to have transdisciplinary conversations, and the humanities need to understand how the technology works. Really, for us, is to put the proof in the pudding to show what kind of research can really come out of these kinds of, everybody says multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary, but let us really start engaging in this kind of research and show what it can do for governance. I'd say a lot about the why of AI ethics in my work. There was the what is the principles and values, and the how is the responses from the tech world to test an algorithm for bias or for transparency or for explainability or whatever the case might be. But I'm a philosopher, so I really think it is important for us to also understand the why. And for me, the why relates to agency. It relates to ensuring that AI technology is used to support and enhance human agency. And human agency for what? I think that in the case of AI ethics, it is not political entitlements, but ethical entitlements that place positive duties on governments and on all AI actors, not just governments, to ensure that AI technology and the development and deployment and use of AI technology do not in some way threaten the ability that every citizen has to attain a life of well-being. And that's very abstract, but if we have hours, I can make it a lot more concrete. So that's the one thing. And then the other thing is, of course, this notion of what it means to be human. And for me, that relates directly to the right to mental integrity, the right not to be manipulated, the right to be the person that you want to be, the person that you find yourself to be. AI technology has, from its inception, been meant to augment what it means to be human in ways that will not harm the core of what it means to be human. If we think, for instance, of the African continent, which is my continent, we have the youngest median age in the world. AI is developing very fast. I also always say a lot about how intergenerational justice is important to keep in mind when we think of AI governance and policy making, because we are changing the world that future generations will be living in and taking decisions on how that world will be regulated. And that means that the whole world needs to be part of this conversation. Secondly, if we talk about leaving no one behind, we must be very sure that we mean no one in the north and no one in the south. Usually when people say that, they think, oh, the poor people in the global south. In fact, the whole world is at risk of harm from AI technology. And if there is one pocket, and that's the third reason, if there is one place where there is no protection, it is problematic. And in some cases, international or global regulation is all that some people will have to protect them. Having said all of that, it is really important to understand that there are different articulations of shared values. We shouldn't, only talk in terms of cultural diversity to the point that we don't understand each other anymore, but we should understand and be open to unravel how different cultures unpack the same value. For instance, the value of privacy will be differently unpacked from a collectivist than in an individualist ethical tradition, but it does not mean that it's not respected and that it's not taken seriously and people don't understand what it means. We need to have sensitivity so that we protect everyone. It challenges us perhaps in ways that we have never been challenged, because it asks us to be very honest about what it means to be human and to be very honest about why it is worth protecting what it means to be human. And those are very hard questions to respond to, especially, as I said, if you look around you in the world. So we need also to speed up conversations, for instance, in disciplines like philosophy, that are like 3,000 years old on what it means to be human, and to really, pull up our socks on that.